Well, this is Dr. Mark Hitchcock here in my office at Faith Bible Church in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I want to just thank you for joining us for another episode of Marking the Times. We love to talk about end-time Bible prophecy and how events in our world today are setting the stage for what the Bible predicts for the end times. And we see the stage being set really all around us, really unlike any time in human history. And those of us who know the Bible and know something about Bible prophecy see how these events really are precursors to what the Bible predicts. And so I love to discuss these issues and look at events happening in our world today, but also love to answer questions and think through issues that people deal with in the area of eschatology. And when you think about prophecy and about the end times, we said this many times in these videos, I believe the next event on God's prophetic calendar is the rapture of the church. That's the event that we as God's people are to be looking for. We're not looking for the tribulation. We're not looking for the Antichrist. We're looking for Christ. And of course, that brings up the whole issue of the timing of the rapture of the church. There's several main views, three really big ones. People believe, like I do, in the pre-trib rapture, that we'll be raptured before the coming tribulation. Mid-trib view, it'll be at the middle of the tribulation. Post-trib, it'll be at the end. There are a lot of arguments that are given for these various views, but there's one argument for the pre-trib view that's often given that I don't think is a good argument. I wish it were, because it would be a slam dunk for pre-trib rapture. But I want to address this argument. This is an argument that sometimes pre-tribbers use, and again, that's my view, but I don't think it's a good one to use. And that's Revelation chapter 4 and verse 1. In Revelation 1:19, we're given what I believe is kind of the inspired outline of the book of Revelation. The angel says to John, or Jesus speaking there to John says, John, write therefore the things that you've seen, write the things that are, and write the things that will be after these things. Well, the things John has just seen is Revelation chapter 1. The things that are Revelation chapters 2 and 3, the seven churches, and the things after these things are the future events that will occur after the church age. So when you get to Revelation chapter 4, verse 1, it begins with the words, after these things. So it's taken us into that third section of this outline of the book of Revelation. And in Revelation chapter 4, verses 1 to 3, we see the Apostle John snatched up from the island of Patmos to heaven. He's kind of transported in a kind of spiritual time machine into the future, where he's going to prophesy and describe for us future events. And here's what it says in Revelation 4, verse 1. After these things I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven. And the first voice, which I had heard like the voice of a trumpet speaking with me, said, come up here, and I will show you what must take place after these things. Immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was standing in heaven, one sitting on the throne. And he who was sitting was like a jasper stone and a sardius in appearance, and there was a rainbow around the throne like an emerald in appearance. So you'll notice here that you have the repetition in chapter 4 and verse 1. You have the words after these things, and then at the very end of the verse you have the word after these things. So it's clearly telling us this is that third part of the division of the book of Revelation. Now, when you get to chapter 4, verse 1, that follows Revelation 2 and 3, which has described the seven churches. So it's kind of like the church age is over. So some who believe in pre-trib rapture say in Revelation 4, 1 to 3, we have a picture there of the rapture of the church to heaven. Now, if that is a picture of the rapture, then it's clearly pre-trib. It's before the tribulation starts. So it'd be a slam dunk or a dead cinch argument for a pre-trib rapture. And many people have held this view. Tim LaHaye, that I had the privilege to get to know well, Dr. LaHaye held that view. And the proponents of that view, who are all pre-tribulationists, they note some similarities between the rapture in 1 Thessalonians 4 and John being snatched up to heaven in Revelation chapter 4. In other words, in 1 Thessalonians 4, it's the end of the church age. In Revelation 4, it's the end of the church age. In 1 Thessalonians 4, a trumpet sounds. In Revelation 4, John hears a voice like the sound of a trumpet. And in 1 Thessalonians 4, the church is caught up to heaven, whereas in Revelation 4, John is caught up to heaven. So they would say that here it is, the church age is over, and John here is a picture of the church, and he's being snatched up to heaven before the tribulation period begins. Now, Again, it's tempting for those who hold the pre-tribulation view to make this connection. Because in the pre-tribulation understanding of the end times, the rapture of the church will occur really at that point in the book of Revelation. But I don't believe the rapture is presented in Revelation 4 either directly or indirectly. And here's the reason is in Revelation 4, John goes up to heaven to receive revelation, not glorification. He's not going up there to be glorified. He's going up there to receive revelation. Also, in Revelation 4, John's body probably stayed on earth. He was transported by means of a vision to heaven. And also in Revelation 4, and this is clear, John is the one who's caught up to heaven, not the church. You could say, well, John represents the church, but there's nothing in the passage specifically that says that. All we see is the personal movement of John from earth to heaven, not the movement of the church. And to equate John's transfer to heaven with the rapture, or make it a picture of the rapture, simply goes beyond what the text actually says. So as much as I would like to see Revelation chapter 4 and John being caught up to heaven there before the tribulation as a picture of the church being caught up, I think that's reading a lot into the text that's simply not there. So we want to go find other better arguments, I think, for the pre-trib rapture other than that one. So anyway, I hope it helps maybe those of you who've thought about that question before. If you haven't thought about it, it'll help answer that for you as well. Thank you again for joining us again for another episode of Marking the Times. I really appreciate your presence with us. God bless you. Hope you have a good week, and we'll see you next time.